Well, it's Feather's little baby kitten, right? How you doing, little munchkin? I don't know what the hell to call you. Little kitten. See, Feather's up there eating her food. And we got our Great Seal of the Confederacy in this box. We're going to open this up, little kitten. What do you think about that? You got dirt on your ear. I think Feather's only got one kitten. So, the other one's got, I think, like 4. So, right? Don't go falling down there, little kitten. She's a little guy. I saw her out there in a security camera, doing the breastfeeding. So, right, baby? You're gonna be used to me now, huh? You got a little cute face. You look like a little baby. So, we're gonna be opening up this box. I just got this from the SCV. It's the Great Seal of Confederacy, and we're gonna be talking about that. And but I was surprised to see her, she's bringing her little baby out here now. So anyway, look who knocked over my little box. You are such a kitten. Well, here's the Great Seal I picked up. 6-inch bronze, made in the South and made in the Confederate States of America. Formed February 22nd, 1862. Dio Vindici. That actually means not God is our vindicator, God is our defender, believe it or not. And the other motto is death to tyrants, as you probably know because Abe Lincoln. One of the things I'm going to go over, like a lot of what the Confederate Constitution changes are in this video. But first, this little cute cat, it's the first time this cat's been out here. See, I spilled my coffee when I was coming out. And that's our latest recruit. And they do pack everything really good. You can see all the popcorn in there, like that little booger right there knocked it over. It was on the steps. It's probably, not Feather, but anyway. But I also want to tell you that you can buy this merchandise as long as it's not member merchandise. Like you can go buy, this you could buy no problem. You could buy these forest flags. This is my old forest flag. I sewed it up because I had it flying out there a long time. And I replaced it. You can see there's not too much wind out there right now. And you can buy flags from them. Got some really good deals. I actually got that one on Rebel Nation, though, right there. That one. That's a 6x, what is that? 4x6 on a 26, 27 foot flagpole. But I also want to go over because there is a lot of directed hate against what the Confederacy stood for. So let's go over like what your Constitution says, right? And I'm going to leave out one thing in the Constitution because it already was legal, and you know what that is. But I'm going over the changes in the Confederate Constitution. Each state acting in a sovereign and independent character in order to form a permanent government. That language was added. Everything in yellow was added. Invoking the favor and guidance of Almighty God. That language is added in the Constitution also. So, right from the beginning, when you're reading this document, the Confederate Constitution, you can see that, hey, the major media is leaving stuff out or whatever they're doing. They're not telling you the perceived public perception. I guess that's not the way to say it, but the public perception is not exactly correct. It's like they're getting away from the materialistic ways of things, and they are spelling it out that each state is of independent character and they are sovereign, and that there is also still a permanent federal government, but there's an emphasis on sovereign states. So, invoking the favor and guidance of Almighty God, which in other words, hey, we submit to God first before we submit to anybody, right? Which goes along with virtually every religion out there. This blue thing here is, this blue reference, what I have it highlighted in blue, is actually from the current Constitution. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 in every 30,000 constituents. Right now, we're at about 700-something thousand constituents for each one of our 435 House representatives in the House of Representatives in the first body of Congress. So, yeah, we are way beyond what you consider representative government. It's like there's too many people being represented by one person today. It's spelled out in our U.S. Constitution that we should have a lot more representatives. So divide the power up. Again, going to that principle. And then it goes, The House of Representatives shall choose the Speaker, except that any judicial or other federal officer or resident acting solely within the limits of the state may be impeached by a vote of 2/3 of both branches of the legislature thereof. In other words, the states could impeach judges or other federal officers not acting the way they want them to. In other words, states have a lot more power. So that says a lot right there. You can see right now, pretty much the central authority wants us to think one way. Line item veto, like in other words, now omnibus bills are actually illegal under this Constitution. But say you had a bill that was still contained some pork in it, the president could line item veto that. Not line item veto laws or legislation, but line item veto appropriations of money. So that's, one of the things you can see with our debt clock right now, over $21 trillion. This should have been around for a long time. We probably wouldn't have been there because looks like we're at the point of no return. Limits on spending of infrastructure. That was another thing they emphasized. That was actually one of the main things that actually started the war, because the Southern tax money, which is probably about 80 to 85% or more of the money that was coming into the federal coffers, was being spent mainly by the North and the railroads in particular for infrastructure, right-of-ways and also canal building for the manufacturers. So that was a big contention. But so they just said limit it. Basically it was just for improving harbors and things like that. The CSA, Confederate Congress, can't forgive debts. Now, you know how we got today? We gave so much money to so many different countries all over the world over the many decades in the past. We just forgive their debt and life goes on, right? Because really a lot of times when they give that money or they lend that money, it turns out to be a gift, it's to spur sales in monopolistic corporations that already have them lined up where we'll lend you the money so you can buy trucks from us or something like that, And what happens then, it's like it just goes into the biggest corporations because this other country got lent all this money so they can make a deal with these big corporations. And you could say, oh yeah, there's a little bit of a trickle-down theory, but most of it actually goes into the big CEOs. And then when that country can't pay the money back, they just, today they just forgive the debt. Today, under this, if this was under the Confederacy, the CSA Constitution, no law of Congress shall discharge any debt contracted before the passage of the same. You can't forgive debts. This is about, establish post offices. The post office shall be operated under their own revenue. Notice fiscal, notice what's going on today, Fiscal responsibility, so post office would have to compete with FedEx and UPS for real, right? Fiscal responsibility, the Congress shall appropriate no money from the Treasury except by vote of 2/3 of both houses, by yeas or nays. So a lot more fiscal responsibility. You had to have 2/3 of votes to appropriate money, not a simple majority. All bills appropriating money shall specify in federal currency the exact amount of each appropriation and purpose for what is made. In other words, no omnibus bills. Now, you could say, remember Trump had to sign an omnibus bill? Well, omnibus bills would be illegal under the Confederate Constitution. Also, they came up with term limits before term limits. I think term limits were brought about by the 22nd Amendment after FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the first really bad socialist president. He became president for 4 terms. Well, back then, in 1861, when they came up with this Constitution, or 1862, I don't know when it was exactly, it would have been 1862, because back in 1861, they were too busy seceding, right, from the Union. But, 1 6-year term president, right? 6 years, but the president shall not be re-eligible for voting again. Also, easier to fire government leeches. Now, we talk about the deep state. About the deep state. Well, deep state is kind of like it's a word to describe a lot of different things. It largely refers to the entrenched bureaucracy, where you have an advisor that advises Republicans and Democrats, no matter who gets in office. It's the same advisors behind the scenes telling you domestic and foreign policy. Well, a new executive officer that's elected by the people, or actually elected by the electoral college, which is through the states, would actually be able to get rid of those people, the entrenched bureaucracy. So, in other words, the swamp could get drained a lot faster under that Constitution. And stop recess appointments. In other words, when they're all out, everybody's recessed. You don't want to have there's 3 people left, let's appoint this guy. Well, you don't want that to happen. That's stopping that from happening. Also easier to freaking make a constitutional amendment. So, but that is really, when they're knocking this, the Confederacy and what it stood for, you're actually being told like a tiny, tiny sliver of what it stood for. Very tiny sliver. And, it's not to say that anything is perfect, because governments are made by man. But, in here, or mankind, or whatever you want to call it, but in here, it's talking right here, it's actually acknowledging that we need the favor and guidance of Almighty God. That was added to the Confederate Constitution. They probably tell you that's hate speech today, just to add the word God. This is religion, the separation of religion and state. You know what I mean. So, now, you can order this stuff right here. If you're not a member, you can order this. You can order the forest flags. You can order the Army of North Virginia flag, which I have one in the front. $10, plus shipping. Member stuff you can't order with the seal, because you got to be a member. But, I ordered a few things. I had to get the cami one here. This one's cool. And this beanie is for when it's freezing cold out. Which right now I'm not thinking about that. And I also got a hoodie here, which I got a little bit big because I figure I can put some underlinements underneath this thing. I like these things with the pocket warmers, the hand warmers in here. It's got the seal on it. And of course I order stuff from Cooters too, because I like Cooters, man. That's my favorite coffee cup right there. Yeah, because I'm always working on cars, as you can see here. Here's my intake manifold. So anyway, I'll go over one more thing. Yeah, I want to give you a little bit of a rough analogy. Now, it's a very rough analogy, but Fort Sumter was attacked by the Confederacy because it was reinforced by the Union, and it was also a tax collection point, which was smack right dab in the middle of Charleston Harbor in South Carolina, which was sovereign territory of South Carolina. Now, you think of this. The site of the UN headquarters in New York City, which was given to them by David Rockefeller, right, is owned by the United Nations. It's not owned by the United States. It's owned by the whole site, the UN headquarters. It's an international territory. No federal, state, or local officer or official of the United States, whether administrative, judicial, military, or police, may enter UN headquarters except with the consent of and under the conditions agreed to by the Secretary General of the United Nations. Now, add to this the fact that many of the lands out west, especially, are owned by international treaties, basically, subjected to international treaties and aren't really under the auspices of the U.S. government anymore. So, there's vast tracts of western land, too. But say, for instance, there was a global tax enforced, a carbon tax or something like that. And the United States said, well, we don't want to be part of that anymore. And the United Nations was a tax collection point, a main, electronic tax collection point. We told them, get the hell off our land. Well, and they said no, and they just reinforced it with all these things, right? And we attacked it. Well, that's sort of like what happened with Fort Sumter. So, someday, American nationalism is also already under attack. Now, I'm kind of bringing this video out, and actually in California, I don't think you can fly that flag out there anymore, but if I had my way, if California was like the way it was back in the late 50s and early 60s, a free, independent state, I'd probably be living out in California more than anywhere, even down south, because California's got pretty much every damn thing there is. But the way it's going right now, nope, no way in hell. But you can get this stuff on the Sons of Confederates Veterans site. And also, I'm going to provide, now I do not ever ask for any money myself, and this is not for me. But if you want to, you can contribute to the Confederate Museum that's being built in Elm Springs, I believe it is, in Tennessee, near Columbus, Tennessee. and also the Confederate Heritage Fund. You want to give $5 or $10? Great. I'll point a link to where it is. You can just go on the SCV site if you want to give it $5, $10 or whatever. Anything they get, helps a lot. I can tell you one thing: these extremely high dollar country western music singers who are making a lot of money off these, Confederate Dixieland heritage. I don't think they're giving a lot of money to, the SCV, to tell you the truth. I know Cooter does. That's why Ben Jones, former congressman, he's a legit guy. And actually, he was heavily involved in the SCV for a long time, too. He's genuine. I like buying stuff from Cooter's place a lot, and I really like the show. Actually, I got up here, re-elect Roscoe P. Coltrane and Cooter's Garage and all this other stuff out here. So maybe got a Dixie plate on the front of my El Camino. But, I want people to understand what it's about, not what the propagandists are telling us about. And I'm proud to fly that flag, see? That one that's up there flies pretty good. Get a little breeze, cooks out there good. So you can, what I would ask you to do is make a contribution. I'm going to have that down. I'm going to put a comment down there with 2 different links. You can just use, the Sons of Confederate Veterans Museum or the Heritage Fund or whatever the hell you want to give to. I'm also going to have it up there in the information box. It's not going to me. I don't get no kickbacks off this stuff or none of that kind of garbage. And that's the way I play it, Actually, next time I renew my membership, I'm going to make sure I give them a healthier donation this time, so. Because having the truth be told is important, You mess with our history, you mess with our present, you mess with our future, too. And basically, if you really want to think of what the Confederacy was about, don't think of rigid rules. Think of California in 1962 when you can go to the beach and it didn't have a sign up there that said no, 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 no. And you know what I mean? It was laissez-faire to the max. That's one reason I like the South. So anyway, keep the faith, and if you want to get one of these are cool. I'm going to probably mount this up on the wall somehow, and near some of the things I got when my family was in the military and stuff. And it's very beautifully made bronze 6-inch medallion made in the Confederate States of America. And if you want to purchase flags and fly them proudly, go right ahead. I'm actually going to have a video out here pretty soon. Amazon, believe it or not, sold the old Georgia State flags for $5.99 each if you buy $25 worth. No tax, no shipping. I'm actually going to go over a video on how to make a 17-foot flagpole for like under $50 with that cord and all those other garbage. So, just so people can fly it proudly. Over now. By the way, that's the Army of North Virginia flag. I had that up there for probably a year and a half. Probably going to change it out to a new one. $10. I want to actually call it, besides Confederate Heritage, let's call it Confederate Truth, because that's really what we're telling here. It's the absolute truth. Truth as in capital letters, like the God Almighty truth. Okay, so that's one way I look at it.